Mindanao, Visayas, Luzon, at sa lahat ng mga kababayan nating nasa ibayong dagat, welcome po kayong lahat dito sa Talakayan Bayan. Ngayon po ang ika-26 ng Enero, 2021. Ako po si RJ Javellana Jr.
Ako po si Butch Valdes ng KDP.
At ako po si RICARDO PENSON.
At kasama po natin via Zoom.
Ayan. Go ahead, Ma'am Rita.
RITA GADI po ito. Sumasapaw sa RITA GADI's Hour dito sa KDP. Isang magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Okay.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Ito po inyong kasama sa KDP, Toti Casiño.
Huwag na po nating pahabayin pa. Ano ba ang mga nagbabagang issue o current events sa ngayong mga panahon na ito? Gabundok ang mga issue. Sobrang dami po.
Ang mga issues ng lokal, medyo talagang nagbabaga, lalong-lalo na tungkol dito sa mga pagbabakuna, no? At ang reaksyon ng tao. At ano pa, pati na rin yung mga MPAs na issue against the UP, itong so-called agreement, pwede din natin pag-usapan yan. Sa ibayong dagat naman, of course, ang pinaka recent itong hanggang ngayon itong sitwasyon sa bansang Amerika, mukhang hindi pa talagang naayos at marami pang mga kuro-kuro na hindi pa solidly nakaupo ang administrasyon ni Biden, no? At ayun, pwede natin pag-usapan.
Pero alam niyo po, doon sa mga ordinaryong mamayan, ang mga nagbabagang issue sa kanila, yung bakit mataas ang presyo ng repolyo. Yun. Bakit mataas yung presyo ng baboy. Yung kamatis lang po, kabibili lang ng aking may bahay. Isang piraso, 20 pesos. Nagulat ako kapot. Parang nahulog ako sa aking sili. Ito po yung mga issue ng mga ordinaryong mga kababayan natin na talagang, ano ba yung ihanda natin sa hapagkainan? Kamusta ba yung pambayad ni Ma'am Rita at ni Professor Toti ng Meralco? Yung problema sa tubig. Mga ganyan. Ang dami pong dinadalang problema ng ating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. At isa pa, nagsimula na ang mga kabayo na naghahanda para sa 2022. Yan yung mga bahagi na rin ng current events. Kaya, ay nako.
Gusto natin mapakinggan ng ating opinion ng ating bagong kasama sa KDP.
Hindi na bago yan, sir. Pinuno natin yan
si Dick Penson. Ingil dito sa current events, Dick.
Current events sa Pilipinas muna. Well, alam mo tayo mga Pilipino kasi masyadong dibdiba ng pag-iisip sa politiko. So, maaga pa lang, kanya-kanya ng kabayo, kanya-kanya ng mga lobong pinalulutang sa hangin. Pero sa akin, itong mga maagang nagpapahiwatig, madali sundutin ng aspili at paputokin. Mga walang laman, kundi puro ere. So, huwag muna siguro. Kailangan siguro gawan muna natin ang taong bayan ng parang checklist. Ito ang kailangan natin sa panahon na ito na maging liderato ng ating bayan.
Parang kung pipili tayo ng mga leader ng ating inang bayan, ano ba ang mga dapat na mga katangian? Parang yung sa kartilya ng Katipunan, di ba? Yung kartilya ng Katipunan. Ano ba yung mga katangian ng isang, hindi yung traditional na politiko, kung hindi yung mga, yung dapat na public servant, no? Na sinasabi natin.
At hindi lang siguro katangian. Kasi katangian gusto natin lahat, no? Mabait, matalino at honest, integrity at lahat yan. Pero kinakailangan natin makita sa kanya kung meron siya talagang programa na gustong ipairal pag-upo niya bilang Pangulo o bilang leader ng ating bansa. Kasi kung sasabihin natin, magangampanya si Fulano de Tal, sasabihin niya, ako'y malinis, ihahango ko kayo lahat sa kahirapan. No? Pagdating ng eleksyon, mauupo siya, sasabihin niya, I need 200 days to study how to become president.
Kamot yung ulo.
Ano
Pero
mangyayari sa atin yan? No? Kinakailangan on day one, pag upo niya, no, agad-agad yung programang sinasabi niya sa kanyang kampanya na itong gagawin niya. No? Hindi lang yung general na ihahango ko kayo sa kahirapan. Ito ang gagawin ko kung paano kayo maihahango sa kahirapan. Ito ang gagawin ko. Agad-agad. That is what the people would want to hear and would want to see, di ba?
Ma'am Rita, go ahead.
Bago tayo umabot dyan, Sir Butch, RJ, Toti, pag-aralan muna natin kung paano tayo magkakaroon ng halalan. Sapagkat bago natin isipin yung mga taong nais natin ihalal, ano bang klaseng halalan magkakaroon tayo? Sapagkat yung Smartmatic na yan, andyan pa. Ang dami ng congressional hearings tungkol dyan. Meron na rin mga nagpo-propose na blended, kung ano ba yan. So ganun pa ba mangyayari kagaya ng mga nakaraan, yung Smartmatic pa rin ang gagamitin?
Mo kasi sila nanalo sa bidding, Ma'am Rita.
Oo nga, dun sa, ano ba
Pero
yun?
sila din yata nagpatakbo ng bidding.
Sila rin ba?
Yung malaking building na may mga retrato tayo nun kung saan nagkakaroon ng diversion bago umabot talaga sa resulta na ano. Anyway, ngayon, pag-usapan natin kung meron pa bang magagawa tungkol dito sa nangyayari sa method ng ating eleksyon, yung paggamit ng automated machines na yan. Pero pwede pa bang ayusin yan o pwede pang may magawa tayo?
Well, may nagsampa ng panukala sa lower house na magkaroon tayo ng si Amy Marcos yata nagsabi na dapat may mga sectors na bigyan ng hybrid election para lang merong comparative analysis kung totoong kung tama ang sistema ito. Dahil alam naman ng lahat ng na-involved sa election sa Pilipinas, alam lahat yan na yung SWS at Pulse Asia surveys ay nililink sa programa ng Smartmatic. It's common knowledge, but for us to prove it without having our hands into the system itself, mahirap. Magmumukha tayong pagtatawanan lang tayo. Parang ano yan parang alam natin na alam natin kayo banggi ako, pero kung pagpipilitan na lang mistiso ko, parang ganun. So, yun ang Smartmatic. I think there should be a greater movement to eliminate Smartmatic once and for all. Because they've proven themselves to be a failure in 2010, 2013, yung nawalang flashcards in 2010, yung 60-30-10 statistics ng 2013, yung 3 million padded votes ng 2016, and so on. So why are we still considering Smartmatic as the only partner for our COMELEC?
Well, it's not just Smartmatic, because Smartmatic is just a machine. You have COMELEC that are supposed to be involved in this. So it is a COMELEC Smartmatic operation. And it takes people in the COMELEC who are perceived to be very, very dishonest that are involved in this. Even if you take out Smartmatic and you put in another kind of machine, it does not necessarily mean you're going to have clean elections, because the people manning it or the people directing it are still very corrupt. I would go for the total abolishment of the COMELEC, and maybe a complete overhaul of the people that are involved in that thing. And then you change the means, which is the machines. My worry about the machines, Rita, is if they can do an in-your-face type of cheating in the most in the biggest country in the world, the most powerful country in the world, no? If they can use this and still get away with their cheating, wherein the legal processes, the courts and the officials in government, no, who are supposed to be siding with the people, no, and looking for the truth, no, do not look for the truth, and in effect allowed Smartmatic and Dominion to do their thing, no, then we have got the problem. Because if the US, they are actually showing to the world, Smartmatic and Dominion, we can do it in the US. That means we can do it anywhere in the world, and you do not have any power to contradict us. You must remember, the Dominion Smartmatic, the way they had it in the US, was the part of the conspiracy that went through was involving foreign governments. I mean foreign governments, like the president of Italy, no, si Conte, no, who approved the use of their satellites so that they can transfer what was deemed to be the results of the elections in the U.S. That were votes for Trump were transferred to Biden. This was made in an affidavit when the person was brought to the Supreme Court in Italy. He confessed that this was the case. He confessed that the MI6, the UK, were involved in that, and the CIA in the Rome U.S. Embassy were involved. He also confessed that the results, after they transposed the ballots, were sent to Germany and in a roundabout way, and all the way to Switzerland to be brought back to the U.S. So that it was going to be difficult to follow the trail. Now, this is the kind of power these people have.
Yes, and that is where the element of media comes in, because something that happened in Italy, for instance, and all of this are not broadcast or made known to the public, precisely because the control of media is part of the conspiracy. And that is where, as we mentioned earlier in the beginning of this program, if we are to make choices for the people that we will elect into office, and then there will be this manipulation by this international syndicate of machines, plus the fact that all that will be covered, it will be just covered up by media itself, and that follows through not just abroad but also here. That is the pernicious control that these people have, as far as not only countries but people that you elected to office, and that's the reason why there's so much against Trump. He's somebody really out of the box, out of their particular group. So this is one person that they would not want to be re-elected, and the same manner goes with other countries. They make the choices of the people they want to put in the office, and we too suffer from such from such actions that this I don't know if you could call it a conspiracy, but as they say, who controls the flow of money controls the world, and that's it. Media, electoral processes, the choices of candidates that you have, and several other matters. This vaccine that everybody's fussing about, wherever it's coming from, and how they would destroy one country because that country is improving, or that's it's a whole mess actually. How was it called at one time? The deep state, the invisible government, the swamp.
Well, actually, we don't want to. Ayok natin malihis ang ating diskusyon.
Yeah, okay.
Kasi initially, ang ating concern talaga yung kahirapan dito sa atin.
Okay.
Hindi po ba? Pero, maski pa paano, it is linked to the elected leaders. Yeah. If the leaders that are chosen hindi karapat-dapat mag-lead, no? Dahil pinili sila ng isang pandarayang sistema, no? then may problema tayo. Eh yung pandarayang sistema ay ginagamit din sa ibang bansa, no? Na nakalusot sila sa Amerika, sigurado makakalusot sila dito sa atin. At magkakaroon naman tayo ng problema dito. Hindi ba, Toti?
Yeah, and I agree with you na I think it's not only the vendor that is probably problematic in our situation. It's also the way the COMELEC is designed. Biro mo, it's only limited to no more than 7 men or women, for that matter, that has the power to declare whatever are the measures, the policy, the procedures are necessary for us to follow. And we are a 110 million people country, and yet we are obliged to follow the instructions of 7 men and women, which can be divided into 17 regions. Now, as you were saying earlier, Butch, na it's high time that we abolish the COMELEC. Probably to transition to that is we could break it down into either island groups, let's say 3 major groups, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, to have their own electoral body, or into the 17 regions so that all the representation are covered that way, and then they can select among the judges from the regional courts to temporarily take the position as the commissioners for a period of, let's say, 6 months, 3 months before election and 3 months after election. That way, they can address all the protests immediately, simultaneously, rather than everything is passed on to the 7 commissioners where there is a backlog. Kaya nga marami mga protesta dyan sa ating COMELEC, 3 years, 4 years, hanggang ngayon hindi pa na-resolve. Ito na nga, classic case na nga ito yung kay the petition of Senator Bongbong Marcos versus Congresswoman Leni Robredo about electoral frauds dating 2016. Ito pa nga yun kay Dick PENSON, yung 60-30-10, which predates in 2013. Up to now, binibigay pa rin ng COMELEC na kami ang batas, kami ang may kapangyarihan dito. So it is gravely abused. So it's high time that the system of our election system has to be reviewed by our congressmen and senators. Unfortunately, those who got selected by Smartmatic are the beneficiaries. Yeah. And they will dare not change that electoral system. That is the irony of these things.
Yeah. There's nothing we can do.
I don't think just legislation would settle this, Toti. I believe there will have to be some changes in the Constitution itself, because the COMELEC is a constitutional body. So to break it down for regions, that is exactly one of the proposals for the amendment of the Constitution. And I think former Chief Justice Renato Puna has discussed this quite extensively, breaking it down to regions, as a matter of fact, so that it doesn't have to be overly centralized. Exactly your idea, Toti, should be done. But I think it would be needing some reforms in the Constitution, actually.
Yeah,
should be a but instead of going to the gamut of going to a charter change, probably just a amendment would suffice, just like what they do in the US. Rather than change the entire Constitution, that would be very bloody. And right now, what they're pushing with this charter change is they're pushing for opening up for foreign direct investment, which is entirely wrong. I mean, why put priority in investing if they only know the type of bureaucracy that we have in various agencies? I'm sure any foreign investor, in spite of them opening it up, they will be turned off, because working with the agencies, regulatory bodies, my God, it's a pain in the neck.
Exactly. Bureaucratic changes, that also should be a priority.
Yeah.
Exactly. The justice system is another priority other than this, because the economy will grow as it will grow, given all of the all of the safeguards that are already in place. But the justice system and that is where all of this bugs down, actually. And also, as we said, the electoral process. So, Sir Butch, where do we go from here?
Well, I was referring to Dick, as he was saying, that some of these moves will need constitutional amendments, no? But it all boils down really to the present leadership that we have. No? We can cry all the way to high heavens, no? But if the leadership political leadership we have will not be moving towards a direction that we hope he will, no? Then we will be facing a more chaotic and anarchic situation in the next coming period. No? As you were saying earlier, I think you opened up as a possibility that we might not even reach 2022, or that's the way I interpreted your comment. It's true. We may not reach there because it all depends as to how things go. If our people continue to face this level of impoverishment that is unprecedented, if we continue not to have the kind of capability to survive, we might be facing a chaotic and anarchic situation very soon. And if government waits for that to come, then it is too late. Government must preempt or be proactive and concede the near future, that we have to do something now so that that does not happen. If we decide for that to happen when it's happening, then it's too late. Then it's late. All of these people that want to become president will be crazy to even run under the completely deteriorated and disintegrated situation that our country will be in by 2022.
Exactly. As you were mentioning earlier, if we go down to the basics, when we think of the political situation and everything that's happening, and the lack of reason and the lack of logic and ethics, the Greeks were right that there are only two studies that we must really get into, and that is right thinking and ethical standards. So if we have that, then it follows all the other qualifications we are looking for in candidates will fall into that line. But that's exactly the current events that you were enumerating earlier, Sir Butch. And on top of it all is there is this over concentration on all the health protocols, the health standards, etc., the IATF, the EIID. We hear the president every night talking about this. Sana, he would have his talk to the people. Okay, this is what we have to do health-wise, and this is what we have to do now for the rest of the other concerns, which is, do we have enough food? Do we have nutrition, proper nutrition? Do we have, all of the other needs? So, as I've said, maybe we go back to that, the right kind of thinking and the ethical standards that are important, because following that would be, of course, corruption, etc., and all of this.
The problem we have with our president, he is micromanaging our country. He doesn't have a broad appreciation of what are the issues besides economic. There's also concerns about social injustice. There's also concern about education. And then also about with regards to values formation. We don't have, wala na nga tayong mamamayan na patriotiko eh. Ito na nga yung UP, inaangkin na nga ng mga ilan dito mga radikal na kanilang campus yan. Hindi ba nila naintindihan pag-aari yan ng Estado? Ang hindi ko maintindihan, bakit napapabayaan itong mga ganito? Paano nakakalusot ito sa mainstream media? Hindi ba sila nag-iisip na kaya katawag sa State University, pag-aari nga ng Estado? Kailan pa naging pag-aari yan ng ilang mamamayan lang? Kaya nga, ang hirap nga sa atin, kalat-kalat tayo, pati nga yung ating Pangulo, nagpa-micromanage lang, mawalang galang lang po sa ating mga supporters kay Pangulo Duterte, pero sa nakikita po natin, talagang nakatutok lang siya, paisa-isa lang, hindi niya kayang mamasiwa o mamahala ng malawakan para tugunin ang pangailangan ng bawat mamamayan.
Go ahead.
Ang importante kasi, Toti, magkaroon ng support staff ang presidente. That is why meron tinatawag the presidential management staff. At lahat ng mga miyembro niyan na monitor ang kanilang mga ginagawa, and then they consolidate this and then present it to the president. Yun marahil ang kinakailangan ng tulong na ibibigay sa presidente. Kasi kung ano lang ang hirap ng IATF, EID, Department of Health, yun na. Ngunit kung lahat sila, under the, ang tawag dito, yung executive secretary, kaya nga little president siya eh. Siya na ang tulong kay President Duterte magdala nitong mga reports na kinakailangan. And that is where the other matters could be taken care of.
Pinuno Rick, baka meron kang gustong idagdag.
Hindi, ako sa obserbasyon ko lang, ang pagkakamali ng ating mga naging mga datihan at kasalukuyang administrasyon, we really failed to empower the people so that the state does not even know the will of the people. Gaya ng mga kaugalian o tradisyon na nangyari na pagka may malaking problema, may malaking issue, bahala na yung susunod na administrasyon. Imbis na talakayin na natin ngayon, resolbahin na natin ngayon. Pinagmamalaki natin dati na tayo parang test market lang ng mga mabalik tayo sa Comelec Smartmatic. Test market tayo ng consumer marketing nila, Colgate, lahat yan, Frigidaire, pati na Smartmatic, tinrial tayo 2010, 13, 16 at 19. Ngayon na perfect na nila, kinik out natin si Angry Bird, nasa San Francisco, yung pala consultant na siya ng Dominion ngayon. So nagkaroon ng reverse engineering. Tapos dito naman sa ating mga naging pangulo, hindi pa na sinwerte ang ating bansa, ni minsan hindi pa tayo sinwerte. Pagkakataon na sana natin kay Duterte because he was overwhelmingly elected. Pero yung tradisyon na pinasukan niya, ganun pa rin. We have an executive secretary who's supposed to be the little president but without any power whatsoever because there is a sat-bongo that's overpowering the executive secretary.
Na-hijack.
We have a PMS head of PMS who's more interested in floating and reviving his family's political coffers in Davao. So hindi siya makapokus sa backup support ng Pangulo natin being PMS. Failure na naman. We have a president who put so much trust sa mga tao niya sa kabinete. Binigyan niya ng total independence. At siguro sa frustration ng presidente ng Pangulo natin, nakikita niyang hindi naman masunod o hindi kinaya ng kanyang mga piniling tao na frustrate na to a point na ang tingin ko sa Pangulo natin minsan parang he's about ready to give up that he's lost the opportunity to do what he wanted to do for the country. Kaya it's an imperfect world. And nothing is more imperfect than all the situations we have in the Philippines because the people who were made to be decision makers in this country were more involved with personal objectives and personal interests than the national interest. Yung mga boto nyo ko, pagbabago, andito na sa akin. Pag-upo, wala na.
Pero maganda yung mga binanggit niyong punto. Pero isa rin sa dapat nating balikan ay yung kasaysayan nating mga Pilipino. Dito tayo hugot tayong lahat. Yung 333 years natin sa ilalim ng Espanya, ilang taon ba tayo sa limang taon sa Amerikano? 50 taon. 5 taon sa mga Hapones, no? At yung republika po natin, 100 plus, 129 plus ba ang republika natin? Mukhang wala pang merong mga nasimulan pero puro simula. Pero ang kaibahan po, merong Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino o KDP na naghahain po ng mga alternatibong permanenteng programa at solusyon. Hindi po pang 3 taon, hindi pang 6 na taon, pang 50 taon. 50 taon na isang disenyo ng economic program, cultural program, lahat na para maitayo ang isang bagong gobyerno. Ako, nagulat nga ako doon sa pinuntahan ng Pangulong Duterte. Nung nakaraan lang, meron siyang pinuntahang okasyon, yung bagong tulay, no, na pinagdugtong, yung tulay na ito. Yung, ako, tingin ko, may simbolismo, yung mga tulay, mga ganyang klaseng proyekto. Yung pagtutulay, ng lahat ng mga panig, mapa DDS, Diloan, etc. Pero dapat merong malinaw na track record, no? Yung ganoon halimbawa, yung iba kasi nagsasabi, ako gusto ko magpresidente. Pero mga iba naman, hindi nagsasabing gusto ko maging presidente, pero may track record na. Ang kulang lang, ito yung inihain natin sa Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino, yung 50 taong programa. No? At kapag merong ganong direksyon, palagay ko, kahit magpalit-palit ang presidente, pero kung nakafocus sila dun sa Biblia na ito, ng KDP, hindi tayo maliligaw. Kahit wala na si Pinunong PENSON, wala na rin si Pinunong Butch, wala na si Pinunong Casiño, at si GADI at si RJ, tutuloy po yung progreso ng Republika ng Pilipinas dahil meron tayong malinaw na programa na tinutungtungan.
Yan yung pinag-usapan namin ni RJ kanina Kung walang pinagdaanan yung no history NO. No history, know yourself. But no, KNOW, know your history and you will know yourself.
Yeah.
Kaya kung ibubuo natin yung kartilya, gamitin natin damdamin ng bawat Pilipino, mababago natin ang mindset, ang pag-iisip na hindi lang dapat puro pansarili. Dapat iniisip din natin yung ating mga kasama, yung mga kabayan, lahat yan kasama na. Dahil yung pagkatao ng Pilipino, importante. Kung may karakter tayo, pati liderato natin mahihiya. Dahil empowered ang Pilipino dahil kilala na nila ang sarili nila.
Noon nga daw yung ating mga nakaraan mga bayani, no? Pagdating daw ni Aguinaldo, pagkatapos nila Andres Bonifacio, Jose Rizal at Antonio Luna, pagpasok ni Aguinaldo, binenta na lahat ng mga posisyon no? Naging endemic na ngayon ng mga pagbebenta dahil pinagkikitaan yung mga posisyon sa gobyerno, no? Yun ang nangyari sa atin, no? Kinakailangan balikan natin yung sinasabi ni Dick na kartilya to remind us that we were people of integrity, that we are not corrupt by nature, no? That we love our country, we are patriots, we will fight for what is right, no? And we are people of integrity. We have to remind us that, no? Or else, sasabihin ng mga katulad ngayon, baliwala na pag mahuli ka magnanakaw, maski na magnanakaw yung senador na yan ganyan talaga ang buhay no? Magnanakaw talaga. Nasa
Weather.
Sumasaludo ka pa sa magnanakaw kayo no? Sinasamba mo pa yung mga cabinet members na alam mong magnanakaw. Pag naglalakad si Duque, dapat binabato ng bato yan no? Kamatis lang daw para hindi mamatay. Pero wala. Kung maglakad siya, walang nagpapakita ng galit, no? Maski harap-harapan, ninanakawan tayo. No?
Kung titingnan natin yung mga sinasabi mo, Sir Butch, sa nakaraan, yun na nga, sa bawat eleksyon, hinahanap natin lahat ng mga katangian na sinasabi mo. Ngunit simula last year, mga February, March, hanggang sa kasalukuyan, ang buong bansa ay dumaan sa paghihirap dala nitong pandemic na ito. Hindi pa nangyari yan na pare-pareho ang ating dinaanan sa paghihirap, sa pagtitipid, sa paghahanap buhay na nangyari sa kasalukuyan. Sa mga nakaraang eleksyon, for every province or every district, pipiliin natin sino ba yung mga pangalan na kilala natin, sino ba yung mas maraming artistang nilalabas sa entablado. Parang it's all fragmented. Pero ito, merong unifying factor ang nangyari sa ating bansa. Itong pandemic, itong paghihirap na ito, yung mga quarantine na yan and all the adjectives attached to it. Meron ba kaya tayong natutunan sa dinaanan natin ito na magbabago ng ating kaisipan at ng ating damdamin. Yung sinasabi ng love of country. It is a phrase which is sometimes just an abstract. Pero pag sasabihan yung kaya pagtutulong sa kapitbahay kasi naghihirap o meron tayong kamag-anak o kaibigan na tinamaan ng COVID tapos hindi na natin nakita. Sa lahat ng mga bagay na yan, hindi yan isolated cases. Buong bansa nakaramdam yan. Yan kaya ang pwedeng magbago sa ating kaisipan, sa ating damdamin, na sa darating na eleksyon ay isip-isipin na natin sa hirap ng dinaanan natin, ano pa ang ating hinaharap sa mga taong andyan na ngayon na magre-re-elect o hahanap pa tayo ng iba. Ano sa tingin ninyo? Meron ba tayong natutunan dyan?
Meron, pero sa tingin ko kulang ang meron tayong common. Kasi para mag-succeed ang isang bansa, kailangan meron ka munang common denominator. Parang yung nangyari sa mga Israelis, nangyari sa Amerika. Meron kayong common tragedy that you learn from, that you come out of. Ito sana pagkakataon sa atin. Kaya lang, kulang nga yung character natin para i-process yan for the common or national interest. Yun lang.
Exactly.
How do you galvanize that? How do you put it together?
Galvanize it.
Ako ang tingin ko dyan, ang may papel niyan, ang partido. Ang partido KDP. Dapat pangunahan ng KDP, ang kampanya na yan, yung pagbabalik ng tunay na patriotismo sa ating inang bayan sa maraming paraan. No? Itong ginagawa natin ito, kahit nga pandemic, di ba, tuloy-tuloy tayo eh. Hindi tayo tumigil dito sa KDP. Halos lahat ng issue. Ngayon, kinakailangan talaga pangunahan natin yung pagbangon ng kamalayan na ito at palagay ko naman kahit papano meron tayong naiambag. Ako ang tingin ko yung reaksyon halimbawa sa pagpapalit ng saligang batas, particular do sa 100% foreign ownership, ito ay reaksyon sa posisyon ng Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino, particular yung Article 12, Section 17, 18, and 19 ng mga kalaban mismo ng Estado. Kaya ako nasabing kalaban ng Estado dahil ayaw nila paundarin yung ating, ayaw nila tulungan si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte o yung gobyerno na ito, lalong ilubog sa kumunoy ng kahirapan ang buong lipunan ng buong bansa. So, tingin ko tayo kahit papano nakakakurot naman tayo ng konti, no? Dito sa mga nagdidesisyon ng mga ilang mga tao.
Pero sa nakikita ko, dahil nga sinasabi nga ni Rita na meron ba tayong natutunan dito, palagay ko namumulatan na taong bayan. Nakikita nila ang pagkukulang sa ating mga namumuno kung ano dapat ang nagawa nilang hakbangin para tugunin ang ating mga suliranin. Katulad nitong sa ekonomiya, hindi lang ang gobyerno ang nagkaroon ng problema, pati rin ang pribado. Mismo nga ako nga makipag-transact lang ako sa JRS tsaka sa mga LBC. Meron silang mga dati napakabilis lang ang padala. Ngayon abutin ka ng 2 linggo. Kasi daw nga merong COVID at yung pagdadala daw ng mga sulat, let's say dyan lang sa Mindanao at Visayas, abutin ng 2 linggo. Yung sumilis pa ata mag-trend. Tapos dito sa ating mga sasakyan, bawal na rin na talagang magsiksikan. Kailangan may mga social distancing. Yan medyo kailangan din natin yan, pero yan ang pamaraan na bumabagal ang galaw ng kalakalan. Pag bumabagal ang galaw ng kalakalan, pahirapan na at yung presyo ng pataas sa mga bilihin, hindi na bababa. Kaya nga talagang sana itong ating pamalaan ay talagang walang tigil nilang pinag-aaralan nila kung ano talagang mga estratehiya para tugunin ang mga dumadating na bagyo. Kasi pag hindi, ito na lang pag tamaan pa tayo ng matinding bagyo, dagdag pa yung sasakunan natin. Dito pa lang sa bakuna, hindi na nga tayo magkandarapa. Alam ba nila na taon-taon kailangan bakunahin itong ating mamamayan para lang tugunin ang sakit ng COVID? Meron naman tayong budget nakalaan dyan, hindi lang pag isang minsanan lang yan. Yan ba yung napag-isipan ng ating mababatas? Hindi. Tapos ating paralan, marami kabataan natin, natigil ang pag-aaral. Kaya nga, saan na sila napupunta? Internet cafe. At ano nung pinaglalaro nila? Mga gaming. Nawawala na tayo, naiiwanan ng ating mga kabataan sa pagdadagdag talino. At ang masama pa niyan, tinanggal pa ang history sa 11th and 12th grade. Kaya nga wala na silang puso ng patriotiko at nasyonalismo. Kaya nga lahat ang inisip nila para kumita lang na mabilis. Pinapairal lang nila ang engineering tsaka ang teknolohiya. Wala namang mali doon. Kaya lang, yung kahalagaan ng puso ng ating mamayan para sa taong bayan, para sa bansa, nawawala na eh. Kaya nga, sa nakikita ko, ang kawawa sa atin, yung darating na henerasyon ng ating lipunan, pagpahayaan lang natin ito, talaga magkakalat tayo at baka talaga pupulutin tayo sa kangkungan.
Speaking of kangkungan, ang himagsikan ni Andres Bonifacio sa kangkong nagsimula, di ba? Kaya, no? Di ba yung bago pumutok ang revolusyon ni Andres Bonifacio. Opo.
Revolusyon, 2 taon lang.
Pero alam mo, ang resulta ng lahat na ito na dumadaan sa atin, nagka-COVID tayo, masama ang ekonomiya, tapos nagkakandara pa o nagkakandagulo-gulo kung ano ang paniniwalaan natin kasi totoo bang may COVID at totoo ba yung bakunang yan at anong gagawin sa ekonomiya. All of these things, the ultimate result here is the credibility of our president. Because he is the president. You can point your finger at some cabinet minister who is corrupt, this finance minister, this energy secretary, lahat sila, yung mga senador, ultimately, ang tatamaan ng bigat nito ay ang ating Pangulo. Kasi siya lang ang nagiging natututukan ng taong bayan. Everything you've done, sabihin mo, Duque, corrupt, what's his name, Finance Secretary Domingo, Dasani Dominguez, corrupt. Lahat yan, no? Saan nakatutok yan? Hindi lang doon sa dalawang yan, sa presidente. And he will carry the burden. And the people will make this manifest in the near future. For as long as they're having difficulty surviving, especially because of the tremendous burden they carry sa kuryente, sa tubig, sa telecom, ang bibigat niyan. Yan tatlong yan, easily about 50% of their household income na yan. No? Mabigat yan. Tapos dadagdagan mo pa ng napakamahal na repolyo. Biro mo, isang repolyong ganyan, 500 pesos na daw. No? Para dyan mo pa mga ganyan, talagang aangal yung tao. At isa lang ang titignan dyan, ang ating Pangulo. No?
Tama.
Sana, bago pa maging masama itong sitwasyon na ito, no? At kung ako siya, wag muna siyang kukuha ng mga survey yan. Huwag niyong tatanungin niyang SWS o ano ngayon. No? At huwag niyong papayagan magpalabas ng mga... Kung ako siya, kasi magugulat siya sa pagbagsak ng kanyang popularidad at pag-aasa ng tao sa kanya. No? He will be surprised in this first quarter of this year. No? It will hit him. No? The realization of how the people feel about the administration right now.
Pero mataas pa rin ang mga ratings niya sa survey, Sir Butch, sapagkat yun na nga, nakatutok dito sa pandemya na ito, sa pandemic na ito. At yan din ang tinitingnan ng mga tao sa pag-asa at natutupad din yung mga sinasabi niya. Sabi niya na pagdating na ng vaccine, makakaahon na tayo ng paunti-unti. And you know, he mentioned this many times. Sabi nga niya by December or early this year, sa mga nakaraang buwan, sinabi niya yon. Kaya mataas ang kanyang rating sapagkat yun na nga, sa paghihirap ng mga tao gawa nitong pandemyang ito, dun sila nakatutok at naniniwala. Pero kagaya ng ating sinasabi, marami pa rin ibang bagay na kailangan tugunan. At maiba tayo, maliban dyan, ito na, ang ating relasyon sa Amerika, halimbawa, ngayon at nagpalit na sila ng kanilang presidente at inaabangan pa rin kung ano ang mangyayari. May katanungan nga ako, maybe they could know how to answer this. Trump has already left the White House. There is already a new president who has taken his oath of office. What is an impeachment for? Who are they trying to impeach or remove from office? Wala na si Trump doon. How is this?
I think it's
more political.
It's related to what's going on with the global pandemic as well. It may sound so realistic, but for you to try and impeach a non-sitting president is like an overkill. But maybe because Trump represented to the forces in America, a character of change, or somebody who was independent from the system that made it to the top and tried to make a change. Perhaps that's it. And Trump was also quite a strong voice against the pandemic and this vaccination. And so maybe he was not in the good graces of the powers that be, or the global cabal that is trying to take over. If there's such an animal that is trying to make its imprint on the global
I like the
stage.
description of being surreal, actually, because that describes many of the things that's happening, not only around the world, but also here in our region. Kaya mahalaga na malaman natin kung ano ang mga bagay-bagay na mangyayari sa hinaharap because of our relationship with the People's Republic of China, with the South China Sea at lahat ng yan. And with the new administration in the United States, hindi rin natin alam kung paano ito, how it is going.
Pero sigurado pinag-aaralan na yan sa National Security Council natin dahil ang first command conference ni Biden is expected in the next 2 weeks with the Joint Chiefs, no? And I think the Democratic Party will want to insist on reviving the Obama Pivot to Asia strategy, and that will also reflect hard on the Philippine foreign policy as far as the West Philippine Sea is concerned.
That's right. That will be interesting to anticipate the first command conference together with the Joint Chief of Staff. Because right now, because of the previous electoral protests, and the people are not yet convinced, because it was clear that Trump got 75 million votes. It was not clear that Biden got 81 million votes, because all of the cases were against Biden, and there was no single case filed by the Democrats against Trump, who was the sitting president, to have cheated. We will see where the military, if they are in full support of Biden. The reason right now I still have my doubts is because the Chief of Staff, Miley, already the Joint Chief of Staff head already said that they are going to follow the Constitution to the letter, no more or no less. Now, the Constitution refers to, of course, a change in leadership, and if that was that the Constitution said, it was also. But the Constitution also, based on, also says, not because there is such a thing as the Insurrection Act, and an executive order that was passed in 2017 and again in 2018, calling calling for strict criminal sanctions against countries that intervene in the election of the United States. Now, if it is now clear that there are countries involved, and that means government officials of those countries involved in participating in the electoral fraud, it now behooves on the U.S. military whether to consider this as an affront or an attack against the U.S. sovereignty. It is not just a electoral cheating issue between Biden and Trump, but more already including the illegal intervention of other countries in the electoral process to influence the electoral process. If the military considers it in that way, then there is possibility that there will be some actions that may negate or reverse the situation that was done in the January 6th election, January 6th proclamation. On the other hand, if the military in the U.S. Puts this aside and just considers the present situation as legal and does not think that does not assume that the sovereignty of the U.S. has been attacked via this thing, which means against the Constitution, then Biden continues and will get the kind of support that he needs. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things right now, it has been very
nebulous,
clear that the military hierarchy has been very, very silent. No statements are coming out of the military top brass. No statement is also coming out of people like General Flynn. General Flynn, who was part of that group and was very influential in the military. So for as long as that thing is, people are still unsure as to where this thing is gonna go. It does not mean that Trump is the president. He is obviously not the president. But it can also mean that the military will intervene to correct the wrong that has been done against the United States of America.
Do you suppose, Sir Butch, that when the impeachment process will be already set in Congress, there will be the need for, of course, the defense that will be presented by Trump?
Yeah.
Do you suppose that all of this could be revealed during the impeachment process, so that period that where everything could be clarified would surface with the questions?
It is possible, of course, that all of these things are allowed to surface through the debates in impeaching Trump.
So that will be the opportunity.
I am confident already, Rita, that the military right now, as we speak, is going through all of the evidences that would have been submitted to the courts, to the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the U.S., but was ignored or not taken up. Because when they filed the case in the Supreme Court refused to take up the evidences on the basis of technicality. The technicality involved was no state can file a case against another state. And it was Texas that was leading that move, questioning the constitutionality of the 6 other states that were involved. Now, the Supreme Court kind of washed its hands and avoided being involved in the controversy, which was the cheating. Now, at that point, this issue of foreign intervention has not yet come up.
Yeah, right.
It was only subsequently that this issue of foreign intervention came up.
That's probably one of the reasons why there's a second impeachment for a non-sitting president.
Okay.
So that if it's proven right, he's already been impeached twice. He cannot serve public office, so he cannot be president again.
That's right. That's one of the
That's
reasons.
the main reason.
Na ayaw nilang ano. Pero the still the issue of the military being in position, no? And that means something like a martial law, no? But the other problem of the military is this. They may not be solid. If they don't have the military solidly, and if it is split, I think this will go for Biden because they don't want a civil war. No? If it is split. However, if the military is unanimous, no, in their claim, in their position that the Constitution was violated, if they are unanimous, then of course they will make. I think they will make that move. That is the haka of
Still wait
some
and see,
people.
as far as that is concerned, yes. Well, very much depends also on our diplomatic and foreign relations as far as America is concerned. So it's really, how do we call it? It's still a work in progress in a way. So let's hope for the best for them. But I'd like to go to another topic with Toti.
Just one last item before we go to the other topic, Rita. I just wanted to say the situation in the U.S. No, refers to the leader not just of America, but the leader of the free world.
Exactly. Yes.
That's why it has tremendous impact on the rest of humanity. They are the leader. It is the leader nation, the leader of the free world, whoever it's going to be. Yeah,
Exactly.
sorry.
So our breath is bated as far as that's concerned. I'd like to check with Toti because you mentioned something about the kind of learning that our young generation is going through right now. All of these modules, distance learning, etc. And I was just mentioning earlier in the earlier program how this has affected the education process, the difference between learning and education, with all of these modules and the teacher just being seen in the mobile phone or in tablets. The quality of education of our students really has to be assessed, monitored and assessed to find out if it is in the level of what it should be, because the teachers themselves are also having problems. And I was going over some of the modules that I have 3 public school students here in my compound, and it is so different from the actual classroom teaching that is usually undertaken. So how do you see this, Toti?
Actually, that is the biggest challenge, not only in our country, but in the rest of the world, no? Because everything is all new. Even what's going on in the US with regards to that impeachment, that is still new. Let us not forget, the US independence is the great experiment worldwide. To this day, it's still undergoing transformation. And I agree with what Butch is saying, that there's a lot of lessons to be learned, what's going to be coming out of that impeachment. Now, going back to your question, Rita, it's also multifaceted, particularly in the area of technology, because technology has a role here, especially if your infrastructure is not reliable. Okay. Now, I for one have participated in the last trimester in our college on how challenging it is to educate your students through distance learning when some of your students have very poor infrastructure very poor access. So even the teachers has great difficulty trying to encourage their pupils to catch up when remotely the infrastructure that we have here is really out of not even competitive, that should not be tolerated. Now, no less than the president declared, no, in his last State of the Nation address, pag hindi itong telecoms mag-ayos, ite-take over na, ina-nationalize na pamahalaan. It's about time that he should make good his promise. Talaga pakita na niya sa taong bayan na talaga seryoso to. Kasi malaking dagok sa ating mga mag-aaral ito, pag hindi nila maayos itong infrastruktura hanggang ngayon, napakahina ng ating internet. Hanggang ngayon, hindi natupad, nabigo ang itong mga telco, ipatupad ang Telecommunications Liberalization Law na kailangan maging mainam at masagana ang ating infrastructure. Ito nga pagagawa nga nitong mga skyway, highway na to, kung isinabay na nila ang paglalagay ng mga fiber optics habang ginagawa itong infrastructure, sana ngayon gumagana na ang ating internet na maayos. Kaya lang, inantay pa nilang matapos itong mga skyway, saka pa nilang pinag-iisipan na ilagay na ngayon dyan yung infrastructure. Dapat doon pa lang, sinama na nila sa plano yun. Sa ganon, na walang na inaiwanan, ilang taon na ginagawa yung skyway at saka yung mga highway na yan at saka mga tulay. 4 na taon. Kasi nga, pag inayos mo na yung fiber optics dito sa ating Kalakalan, Maynila, isa na tayo sa pinakamabilis na internet ang gamit lang ng fiber optics. Bakit itong ating mga mabatas hindi nag-iisip ng ganyan? Palibasa, ang alam lang nila, mangurakot, palibasa, ang alam lang nila, maging sikat, magpa-epal-epal, hindi sila nag-iisip. Kaya nga, wala akong tigil na nagmumura sa mga ganyan at may init na lang ang ulo ko sa kanila. Kasi nga, napakasimple lang bagay ito. Hindi naman ito, ang fiber optics, matagal na teknolohiya po yan. Nandiyan na po yan, halos 40 dekada. Hindi na kailangan bago na ito. Hindi naman kamahalan yan. Kung kaya lang puntan magpatayo ng mga ganitong infrastruktura ng 4 na taon, dapat isinabay na yung mga pag-aabang ng mga fiber optics para hindi na kailangan dumaan sa mga local governments sa paalam pa magtatayo ng mga tore. Palusot lang nila yon. Habang panay ang singil nila, gaya rin sa kuryente, pinakamataas sa singil, pinakasupot naman ng pinakaserbisyo. Ito naman, tada na nila sa pagpuputol. Mahilig sila magsingil na mataas, mahilig sila magpuputol. Kaya nga, itong pinante ng oligarko sa ating kapaligiran. Dapat maunawaan ng ating mamayan. Talagang laban dito, itong walang puso para sa taong bayan, kundi sa sarili nilang bulsa, ang kanilang kitaan lamang. Yan ang hirap. Hanggang ngayon, ilang beses natin sinisigaw ito dito sa ating atuntunan at meron mga nagsasabi na maging presidente na lang kayo bago kayo magtitira-tira sa ating pamahalaan. Yun na nga sinasabi na natin Ang problema, hindi sa pagpapangulo, ang problema sa ating mga sistema dito. Napakabulok. Kailangan tanggapin na natin. Kaya nga yung kasaysayan natin, wala na. Matuto tayo sa kasaysayan natin mula sa panahon pa nila Andres Bonifacio, nila Emilio Aguinaldo, nila General Luna, nagkakatraidura ng kapwa Pilipino. Hanggang sa ngayon, ganyan pa rin nangyayari sa atin. Nawala na nga yung diwa at puso ng tunay na Katipunan, yung kartilya ng Katipunan, nawala na nilubog na yan sana. Kaya nga, dito sa ating pag-aaral, malaking epekto yan. May iwanan ng karamihan nating kabataan sa ibang karatig bayan, katulad ng Indonesia, katulad ng Thailand, katulad ng Malaysia. Sila seryoso at pinag-aaralan nila dito. Tayo, wala. Ang yayabang natin
Yan nga, ang malungkot, Toti, kaya nga sabi ko, may ilang buwan na ito, magtatapos na ang 1 year. Hanggang June yata itong klaseng pag-aaral ng ating mga kabataan. Yung 1 year na yan, malaki na rin ang epekto sa quality ng kanilang education. Sa tingin mo ba, ipagpapatuloy pa ito, lalo na ngayon na meron namang variant na mas nakakahawa. Kaya siguro aabot pa na 1 taon. Kung umabot pa ito ng at least 1 year or 2 years, malaking disgrasya ang mangyayari sa quality ng ating education. O kaya, pwede pa kaya ito mas save, masalba sa kasalukuyan sa ganitong klaseng paghihirap nga sa internet service at lahat ng yan.
Maraming kailangan gawin. Una, kailangan patibayin natin ang infrastruktura. no? Na para maging mabilis at maaasahan. Kaya nga, ang kailangan nga dito, itulak na yung Artikulo 12 na i-take over ng ating pamahalaan itong telco. Pangalawa, ang ating kagawaran sa pag-aaral ay kailangan ayusin nila yung kanilang syllabus. Kailangan makabago at kailangan na talagang saka binabalik nila ang history. Bira mo, tinanggal nila history subject sa 11th and 12th grade. So, ano na yung kabuluhan ng pag-aaral ng kay Jose Rizal? Pag-aaral ng ating, kailangan hindi natin kinakalimutan ng ating nakaraan, ng ating kasaysayan. Kasi nandyan nga talaga lumalabas ang iyong paggalang sa iyong bansa, sa iyong bayan. Pero pag lahat kayo, akala mo, porque naka-internet ka na, magaling ka na, hindi rin eh. Kasi ginagamit ng ating mag-aaral ng internet, pang social media, pang gaming, mali eh. Hindi nalalagay sa tamang direksyon na kailangan gamitin nilang internet para makapagsaliksik, para makapag-aral ng maayos, kumuha ng tamang impormasyon at makipag-ugnayan sa mga eksperto. Hindi makipag-ugnayan sa mga kajowa. Mga kajowa nila. Yan nga nalapuwi tayo eh.
Professor Toti.
Kajowa na. Sino naman, hindi naman maasar niyan. Puro kajowaan na lang yan eh. Tapos, magsasalita pa itong spokesperson na ka-juicy. Ano ba namang klaseng pananalita yung sinasabi ng ating spokesperson? Dapat nga, yung mga salitang ganyan, hindi na nga dapat nilalagay niya sa formal na mga usapin. Kaya nga talagang ang gulo ng ating sistema dito. Parang tinutuloy pa rin nila ang paraan ng showbiz na dapat isinatatabi na at nagiging seryoso na pangangasiwa pamamahala. Kaya nawawala yung galang ng kabataan sa ating pamahalaan. Kasi nakikita nila, ang mga tinutulak nito ang ating pamahalaan ay hindi kagalang-galang at hindi talagang katuwa-tuwa.
Alam mo ba, Toti, nagpasok na sila ng bagong subject ngayon sa kolegyo. Gaming.
Gaming.
It's already a subject.
Baka po yung baka
That's already a subject kasi nga pinagkakakitaan. At recently sa Singapore, nanalo tayo over Myanmar and Indonesia. So yan ang pinagkakaguluhan ng ating kabataan ngayon, yung gaming na yan, yung Mobile Legends.
Meron pa pong isa, Ma'am Rita. Meron pa isa na pwede rin malamang ito maging subject din nito. TikTok.
Allah, that is the value system that is happening now.
TikTok subject.
Oo. Ito ang ibig ko sabihin. Kaya nga sabi ko nga kay Toti, ano bang mangyayari sa kinabukasan natin? This will be the generation that will be taking over the leadership of our country. Mobile gamers and TikToks.
Yeah.
Hanap pa ba tayo ng mga katangian ng ating mga kandidato? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Kailangan natin yung kartilya ng Katipunan.
Kailangan bayan, yung mga matitino at tatalino na mag-take over na dito. Kung kailangan tayo manawagan sa Armed Force of the Philippines na para magkaroon na tayo ng coup d'etat, di naman sana...
Ay, may tanong ako.
Ayusin na lang ito. Ako,
Professor Toti.
sasabayan mo yung mga ganyan klaseng galaw.
May tanong ako. Layong nabanggit mo yung sandatang lakas ng Pilipinas, no? Kapag lumubha ang kalagayang pang-ekonomiya ng ating inang bayan, gaano ka sensitibo itong ang reaksyon dapat ay hindi na dapat hintayin ng 2 buwan, 3 buwan bago pa mangyari yung mga hindi dapat mangyari, ano? So ano bang karakter ang hinahanap natin sa isang leader ng bayan, no? Yun yung yun yung lahat nakatingin di ba? Kailangan ba paladasal? Yan.
Hindi, ito nga kanina pinag-uusapan natin Di ba pinag-uusapan natin kanina yan. You want a leader must know what to do. We don't look for we don't look for, of course, it's obvious you want him to be a man of integrity, moral courage, intellectual competence. But he's got to have a program. He's got to have the idea, no? That he knows that this is the problem. So as soon as he becomes the leader, these are the things that he's going to do to correct that problem. No? None of them are presenting anything to deal that. No?
Kuyang Dick, Pinuno, kung ikaw magbibigay ng payo sa susunod na Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas, ano ang mga pwede nating ibigay o ilatag na mungkahi?
Unang-una sabihin ko, kunin niya si Rita at saka si Toti na advisor niya. Para at least, kasi kung hindi mo alam kung saan ka pupunta, kahit anong kalye kunin mo, aabot ka doon. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Okay.
So, ang unang-una talaga, well, depende sa sitwasyon. Ngayong pandemic, kailangan economic revival. So, kailangan may programa ka doon. Yung minention ni Rita, yung education. How do we gauge or measure the quality of education of the past year and how do we make up for it? Yung sa tatalakayan mo naman yung sa telco na sinabi ni Toti, at least most of the new toll roads or super highways, lahat yan mandated na. Inumpisa ng San Miguel kasi yan na may utility corridor sila and they offer boxes there for whoever wants to. Meron ng fiber optics kagad yun. We have suggested to the government also na magkaroon ng sariling landing station ng Republic of the Philippines, ng government of the Philippines. Because with this new EID Act alone, mapupuno yung mga data centers ng private, ng PLDT and Globe. So the government has to have its own. And also for national security, you cannot risk the privacy of your citizens to a private company.
Yes.
So kailangan may sariling landing station. With that alone, that solves the problem of the slow internet. Government has to face up to it, and since sila din naman ang gagamit ng karamihan ng bandwidth na kailangan ng i-free up mo na yung ibang bandwidth na naka-allocate for government dahil may sarili ka na for education kung kailangan online studies pa rin. All of those has to be tackled, and of course, kailangan na talagang pag-aralan yung Minimum Wage Act. I mean, it's always a tricky issue, but the new president should really focus on a proper living wage for our people. Hindi yung latest data nga, we were already at 36% incidence of poverty, meaning to say families who don't know where the next meal is coming from. Now it's already up 46%. So, 10% increase na. Konti na lang, kalahati na ng tao natin, hindi alam kung saan kukuha ng hapunan nila.
Although alam mo, Dick, what we are minumungkahin natin na Article 12, Section 12, 17 and 18, okay? Yung sinasabi natin minimum wage, no? Ay maliit compared to what they're going to get if we implement this Articles 12, 17, and 18. No? What's mapasok ito? Ang siguro nga papasok dito is more than 20% of their income. No? 20 or 30% of their household income will be increased because of that additional savings. You did not have to increase salaries, but their capacity, purchasing capacity had been improved in that way. This is the other way. You can talk about, ang problema kasi sa minimum wage is it is generally inflationary. You have to print up the money for it. But in this particular case, you're not printing any money. You're not borrowing any money. You're just transferring from the profits, from the gross profits of the private sector oligarchy back to the people and back to businesses. That's all you're going to be doing, and it will be the kind of boost our people are needing. So that is one way. The minimum wage is another way, because there are areas, of course, that you need to make adjustments so that they can survive. But at the same time, it must be a combination of steps that should be taken. Naglampas na yata tayo. Meron na ba tayo mga text messages?
Di ba pala tayo dito? Para tayong Voltes 5, no? Uso na naman ng Voltes 5. Kaya basahin na natin.
Yun ang ating yun ang tono ng ating KJP.
Yes.
Oo nga, Voltes 5 nga.
That's our theme song.
Diba? Yung theme song natin sa Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino.
Tayo yon 5. We
Opo.
connect.
Sa lahat po na sumusubaybay dito sa Talakayan Bayan, Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino, paki-like and share lamang po.
What is five
Ano po, paki-follow and subscribe po. Itong Facebook, Twitter, no, YouTube at iba pa, no. Ito po yung mga nagpaabot sa atin ng mensahe mula kay Freddy Oridina. Sabi niya, present, pagtingin ng healthcare. We do not have healthcare system. What we have is medical care system. Health experts talks about how not to acquire diseases and maintain good health, while medical experts talks about acquired diseases and how to maintain it. Maintenance drugs, no? Mula naman kay Ronnie Bautista, watching from Caloocan. Good evening po, Ginoong Ronnie. Creme Bastre, magandang gabi mga katipuneros. Nanonood sa Thailand, si Creme. Salamat po. Ras Mendoza, good evening, the living heroes. And ang current events dapat ngayon ay Artikulo 12. May patupad agad ni Mr. President. No? Rain. Ang mga politiko natin ay hawak ng mga oligarko dahil sa ngalan ng kape, kapangyarihan at pera. Kapangyarihan. Okay. ang current events ay ang mga non-stop COVID, non-stop bakuna, non-stop fear-mongering, non-stop sa panloloko, ano pa ba? Non-stop panloloko, yan. Non-stop sa pagtaas ng halaga ng tubig at kuryente, non-stop sa pagyaman ng mga oligarko. Wala silang kasawaan sa sobrang sama. Ayan. Thank you po. Mula naman kay Franz Ayalin. Good evening po, Sir RJ, Butch, Karik, Ma'am Rita, at Sir Toti. Done sharing na po mga sir at ma'am. Salamat, Franz. Abeng Fabro. Good evening po mga katipunero. Watching from Taguig. Ayan. MLBB Saber. Ako po mag-share din ng opinion. Dapat tinatanong talaga ang taong bayan kung ano ang mahalaga. Para sa akon, ang mahalagang katangian ng public servant, 1. Dapat katulad ni Pacquiao na matulungin sa kapwa. Babasahin lang mo namin to ha. Si BBM maraming idea na na-share niya na plano na magaganda sa tingin si BBM ang makakapagpaunlad sa bansang Pilipinas. Okay? Pag ang tao, katulad ni Pacquiao, matulungin sigurado yan, iisipin ni Pacquiao ang ikabubuti ng mamamayan. Ang iba kasi dyan, sa mga politiko, mga makasarili, inuuna ang magpayaman sa pangungurakot. Pwede nyo bang, gusto nyo mag-react? Salamat po doon sa inyong pinabot na mensahe. Melchor Ermino, magandang gabi po katipunero, buhay na buhay ang dugo sa inyo. Nagkaroon naman ako ng kaunting kaalaman. Thank you, Melchor. Mga sir, katipunero, dapat po mawala na yung Smartmatic dahil pag-aari ni George Soros na member ng globalist cabal. Gagamitin nila yan kung sino kaalyado nilang politiko maupo bilang presidente like Biden. Ayan. Benjamin Carge, medical dictatorship na nga tayo mga kapatid. May election pa ba? Wow, good question, no? Revo M. Alpha, watching from Valenzuela. Thank you po. Isay Ariel, good evening mga sir. And Ma'am Rita, looks like moro-moro na naman ang upcoming election 2022. Election in 2022 manipulated by COMELEC using Smartmatic is just a waste of people's money. Nakakasawa na. Punyeta! Sabi ni Isay. Galit na galit. When dumalagan, Arboneda, Smartmatic is worse than Mafia Group because even Facebook and Twitter are part of it. Anong mali doon sa pagpunta ng Pangulo sa opening ng bridge? Wala po. Wala po. Thank you po. Francis Gutierrez, sa susunod, ipa-interview nyo si Perdi Passion kung ano ang sinister plot ng mga Dilawang Aquino loyalists. Ang agenda nila that includes charter change, dismemberment of our nation through reverse federalism rather than true form of federalism. Mula naman kay Hener Adriano, baka raw sunugin Comelec pag Smart Magic paggamitin sa 2022. Sabi ni Hener po yan. Jeffoy Dalby, kahit mano-mano bilangan, di pa din kayo mananalo sa election. Huwag niyong sabihin na talo kayo nung nakaraang election dahil sa Smartmatic. Teka, Jeffoy. Galing magsalita. Sa gawa kaya. Okay. Thank you, Jeffoy. Ang binasa ko kahit negative yan. Okay. Marisa Biao. I am delighted listening to intelligent people like you po. Watching from Hong Kong. Salamat po. Marino Alambat. Watching from Taguig City. Thank you, Marino. I'll go. Good day, fellow Filipinos. Thank God. Even I thought it would be impossible and difficult to believe it, but miraculously, the prayers were answered. Okay, thank you po. William Yaguno. Tumatagal, lumalala, at gumugulo ang ipagprotest sana nila kung bakit madami walang trabaho, mga batang di makalabas, makapag-aral nang dahil sa fake pandemic niyan, pinag-aaksayahan lang ng pera. Nakaw pa more, abusuhin nyo kaban ng bayan. Salamat po. Hellboy, 3 dekadang naghari ang mga magnanakaw. Hanggang ngayon, meron pa ding magnanakaw. Muli kay Hellboy, magnanakaw at magnanakaw pa. Ayan, galit na galit. Alan Santos, good evening po sa inyo. Ryan Salib, musta po sa lahat? Watching from California. Ingat and God bless. Dilawan, idiretso sa inidoro ulit, sabi ni Ryan. Reyna Dizon, they should remove all the people sa Comelec. They manipulate the election for how many years? We're getting tired to their system. Can you imagine how can they elect Bato and Bongo last election? And all Saras, tuta, that's impossible. Kundi binayaran and nasa Comelec ang bobo nila. Ayan, kay Reyna Dizon. Garland Green, good evening to all. There's nothing new under the sun. Glenn Buwan, how can this government be proactive when the people running do not realize or recognize what the real problems are?
That's true.
The way things are going now, kung hindi mag-declare ng state of emergency under Article 12, Section 17, 18, ay baka economically devastated na ang taong bayan na wala ng silbi ang 2022 elections. Useless ang National Security Council because the people in the NSC are blind when they did not even consider the COVID pandemic as a national security threat. Okay, thank you, Glenn. Virginia Malonzo, good evening po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay po kayo. Mabuhay ka rin, Virginia. Ernie Ocampo, good evening po kay DP at sa guest Madam Rita GADI, to Ricardo PENSON, of course, to Sir R. Javellana, Professor Toti Casiño, and Professor Butch Valdes. Ayan po. Malval, nice, sabi ni Mal. Daisy Marino Lin, mga sir, dito sa Taipei, walang distancing, basta wearing the mask, no problem. Mga sir, dito sa Taipei City, Taiwan, malakas, mabilis dito. Siguro internet. Ayan. Thank you po. Elmer Ecleo, good evening mga patriotikong Katipunero. Watching from Barangay Santa Lucia, Pasig City. Thank you, Elmer. RC Cruz, good evening po. Watching from Japan. Ayan. Eric Bautista, good evening Katipuneros. God bless. Bakit ang gobyerno ay nakafocus sa COVID? Dapat ay sa kahirapan ng buhay na hanapan ng solusyon ang mga problema na tulad ng kuryente at tubig. Itinataas na dinadaya pa mga tao at ang pagtaas ng bilihin na walang kontrol. Mula naman po kay Berigov Gobangko, ang common, wag iboto ang mga dilawan. Palagi silang kontra sa pagbabago. Ayan. Mula naman kay Lemor Casiño. Basta BBM kami, sabi ni Lemor. Root Groot, mag-demonstration na. Nagyaya din ng rally to. Marites Ansa, kung hindi niya babayaran yung survey na yan, sabi ni Marites Ansa. Okay, Nori Renon, mabuhay kayo mga sirs watching from Israel. I love very much your program, sabi ni Nori Renon. Welcome po. Ayan, thank you. NC Carion, huwag kayong maniwala sa rating. Negosyo lang yan. Binabayaran lang. Thank you, NC. Jordan Pringle, sa sobrang takot nila na makabalik si Trump sa position, kahit na ordinary citizen, citizen na lang si Trump ay gusto nilang i-impeach. Kakatawa. Ayan. Felix Salvador, ang magnanakaw, natakbo. Matapos makapagnakaw noon at ngayon, takbo muna bago magnakaw. Mga nakakurbata pa at mga honorable, lalo na laki kita nila sa kickboxing, tapos sa tuwa nila, pasayaw-sayaw ng cha-cha. Ay, nako. Thor Lightning. Rapid tulpo na lang, ihalal na presidente. Hinimay ang mga tunay na katwiran at tama. Baka di kayang diktahan ng Kabalens at Judas. Ayan. Thank you, Thor. Ernie Ocampo, sa palagay ko, dapat palitan ang uri ng system ng politika dahil nagiging korap ang lahat ng politika sa ating bayan. Thank you, Ernie. Again, kay Crime Basle. Tama ka, Idol Toti. Support talaga silang lahat. Reaction kay Toti. Thank you, Crime. Alex Cruz. Butch, may balita na control na daw po ng grupo ni Donald Trump ang Federal Reserve. Tahimik lang daw, tinatrabaho ng government ni Trump ang mga Rothschild family. Well, Kain Bastre, dapat po siguro imbitahan nyo si Duque at Dominguez at mag-aral sa KDP. Mukha kasing pera na lang laman ng mga utak. Thank you, Ryan. Giancarlo Iway, magandang gabi. Bayan, abinigyan. Jose Junior Aquino. Putang ina, ng mga support ng mga oligarko na yan. Naawa kay Toti ito. Jose, thank you. Ma'am Rita, excuse lang po. Lourdes Talk. Good evening, Tres Guapito. Sorry pala kanina, Mr. RJ, about sa message ko about sa kuryente kanina pa sa show mo with Manoy Butch niya dahil pinahirapan daw kita sa pagbasa sa Waray Non. Love you all. O nga po, ito'y taga Samar. Oh, yan. Olan Doliente. Mabuhay ka, Olan. Jose Iranzo Aguilar. Paladasal ka nga. Wala ka namang ginawa. May political will, may tapang na suungin ang laban para sa bayan. Labanan lahat ng korupsyon, labanan lahat ng terorismo. Thank you, Jose. Real Era. Kailangan natin ay benevolent dictator tulad ni LKY o Lee Kuan Yew. Hindi matatapos ang kahirapan sa Pilipinas hanggat naglalamangan ang mga kapwa Pinoy. Ang mga mayayaman nilalamangan ang kapwa nila mayaman. Ang mga mahihirap, nilalamangan mga kapwa nila mahihirap. Thank you, Real. No? Again, may kadugtong pa. Panandaliang kasiyahan ang pinapangarap ng mga Pilipino. Puro superficial happiness. Kulang sa filosofiya ang Pilipino. Kaya mababa mag-isip. Kailangan natin magsakripisyo na ngayon para sa susunod na henerasyon. Maraming makinabang sa mga industriyang pinagdusahan ng mga Pilipino ngayong henerasyon na ito.
Kaya importante yung
Kartilya.
Imelda Malabo. Good evening po mga sirs, KDP and Madam Rita watching from Hong Kong. Mabuhay po kayo. God bless po. Salamat din po Imelda. Alfie Hernandez. Nilalaso na tayo gamit ang lockdown. Sabi ni Alfie Hernandez. Napakaaba, ano? Eto pa po. Mula naman kay Thor Lighting. Ang plano talaga ng Kabalens, mga sir, gawing mango at mangmang ang ating mga kabataan ang susunod na henerasyon para madali maluloko. Kaya kinokontrol ang pag-aaral ng mga kabataan naman tinatakot sa virus. Thank you, Thor. Algo, sana po naging advisors kayo ni President Duterte makarating lahat. Seek the seek an audience with him or through internet maybe. Thank you po. Joe Black, umpisa na ang Coast Guard ng China. Joe na kasi ang nasa Washington. Wait, thank you. Neil Setasara, others say the best schooling is homeschooling, supervised by the parents, devoid of technology first and more of the learning and basics molding their character and training them to make something special in preschool age and elementary. Ferds Danao, good evening from Singapore. Thank you po. Jeffoy Dalvi, purin nyo naman ang magagandang nagawa ng gobyerno, hindi yung puro puna. Ayan, sabi ni Jeffoy Dalvi. Okay. Justin Buhi, BBM ako. Geek ko Goody 8. Sana maisipan ng national government ng Pilipinas na gawing national database storage ang Bataan Nuclear Power Plant sa Bataan para sa national ID na nakakonect sa lahat ng government agencies. Hindi masayang. Romel Oracion, good evening mga idol. Frontliner ako dito sa United States. At mismo Christian doctor namin dito nagbigay ng warning sa amin about dangerous vaccines. At alarming talaga ang news dito about vaccine. Thank you, Romel. Ingat po kayo dyan. Chona Ladera, happy to see the fine lady Miss Rita with you, gentlemen. I follow her videos. Your group have very relevant topics and sensible viewpoints. Thank you, Ma'am Chona. Of all the YouTube videos I have seen, your audience has the highest percentage of intelligence. Salamat po.
Thank you.
Justin, gandang gabi po sa lahat, sa ating lahat. Mabuhay kayo. Salamat po, Justin. Mads Kerubin, maraming salamat po watching from Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. Rain, wala na bang balita sa Bataan Nuclear Power Plant? Tanong natin kay Kusi.
Meron pa po, hindi lang si Energy Secretary Kusi ay inuupuan lang yung parang nagsasarswela yata sila, no? Pero meron na pong utos sana na pag-aralan ng mabuti itong BDNPP. Pero 4 na taon na po nilang ginagawa yan no? At sa palagay ko po, hindi natin mapapaandar yan habang andyan po yung kasalukuyan gobyerno. Titingnan po natin sa susunod.
Okay, napakahaba po. Pag binasa ho natin yung komento, bukas pa ho tayo bukas pa tayo matatapos. Ano po? Siguro magbigay tayo ng ating mga huling pahayag.
Dick.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay.
Okay. Rita?
Maraming salamat for having me in your program now at sana ay tuloy-tuloy itong ating mga advocacy sa Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. Pag-isipan mabuti lahat ng ating pinag-usapan ngayon at sa mga darating na araw sapagkat lahat ito ay may kabulungan sa ating pang-araw-araw na kabuhayan. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat.
Toti?
Parawagan ko po sa ating mga mamamayan Pilipino na tayo lang po ang merong paraan para bigyan ng lutasin ang ating suliranin at di na tayo kailangan umasa sa mga dayuhan. Mabuhay po kayo lahat. Toti Casiño po.
Ako po nadiseyahan, nakasama po natin na si Dick PENSON at si Rita GADI ngayong gabi at magkasabay po. No? Sana po hindi ito ang kahuli-hulihan, magkakasama po tayo na limang mga poste ng KDP ay magkakasama. No? Ito po si Butch Valdes, nagbibigay ng magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat.
Hindi ko po isisigaw ang mabuhay ang Valdes 5. Ang isisigaw ko po, ako po si RJ Javellana. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas!
Mabuhay!
Mabuhay!
Mabuhay!